lot of fun. Oh, it's the little details that matter, people. It's awesome. Hey, everybody. I'm Igor. Thanks for having me here. This is awesome. We'll be talking about Angular today. It's gonna be good. But before we start, thank you, organizers, Jürgen, Sam. This is amazing. I read this story about how the conference came to be, and it's just so touching. And um, I was saying that this community that we have, it's not an accident. This is by design, and I'm just so happy to see that it's actually working and that the vibe that we wanted to have in the community is actually happening and is real. So thank you for that. So let's go to Angular. So how many of you know about Angular 2? Okay, there's one person in the corner who didn't raise their hand. So back in September, we released Angular 2 after 2 years of development, and it's been quite awesome. And I don't know how many of you noticed the code name for the release was proprioception reinforcement. Do people know what proprioception is about? Nobody knows. Okay, this is good. So I went to Paris meetup just 2 days ago, 3 days ago, and they asked me the same question. So I showed them. Proprioception is a skill to have a good spatial awareness while you're upside down. So if you make a headstand and you can do it really well, then you have a good proprioception. So Angular code names are about giving weird superpowers to Angular and the Angular community, so proprioception is a good one. Okay, let's talk about what happened since the launch. So we launched, and then many interesting things started to happen. We saw lots of partners launch their integrations with Angular. We saw teams that build Angular applications launch their applications to production, and just the sheer amount of how quickly this was happening was just mind-blowing for us. Because when we started with Angular 1, the ecosystem was great, but it was very small. It was like the first NGCon that happened, I think, 1 year after Angular 1.0. When they proposed that it was going to be 700 people, I'm like, where are you going to find 700 people interested in Angular? Because we just didn't realize how big the community was or how much potential there was. So with Angular 2, the amazing thing is that the ecosystem is right here. Like there are many partners that are working with Angular. We have people working on workshops and books, and it's just amazing to have that right out of the bat as we started with Angular 2. And there are teams that are launching Angular 2 applications. We have teams at Google. Many applications at Ads launched their stuff already. At Google, we use 2 flavors of Angular. We use the TypeScript version and the Dart version. Depending on the team preferences, they use one or the other. So we have teams that build Edwards with Angular. We have teams that build DoubleClick, which is another big ads product with Angular. And then we have lots of partners and teams outside of Google that also have launched already. And I just keep on hearing every time I come to meetings and events like this about launches of applications I didn't even know were under development. So that's really awesome. And as we launched, we also, one of the things that was important for us was like, the launch is just the beginning for us. It's not the final stage of Angular 2. It was really just the stage where what we had was stable enough that we could say, now you can trust us, that you can start building on top of this, and we're not going to break you. And we started releasing minor releases. We released 2.1 in October, which contained some router enhancements. We released 2.2 in November, which had many other features, but one that is quite important, big improvements to ng upgrade that makes it AOT compatible. So if you want to use AOT ahead of time compilation with the application, we have a ng upgrade ready for you so that you can use and take advantage of both AOT and migrating your application if that's what your team is currently doing. And then just yesterday or the day before yesterday, I don't know, the time's messing with me, the time zones are messing with me right now. We released Angular 2.3 with lots of enhancements under the hood. But one big one, which is language service. Language service is a package that you as developers will not use directly, but there are many other partners that will rely on this package, especially ID vendors. So what we are doing is we're copying or modeling the TypeScript model where they don't ship just the compiler and the specification of the language, but they also ship a library that makes it very easy for IDE vendors to integrate TypeScript or integrate with TypeScript. So we did the same thing. We shipped a language service, which now allows teams like WebStorm and VS Code and Atom to easily build integration with the IDE that will show you auto-completion, errors, warnings in the IDE when you're editing Angular templates. And there are many things that we are planning to do with this, including refactoring. So we don't have that yet, but this is one of the features that will be coming. You will be able to do refactoring across your application. So if you change something in your HTML templates, we will know that there are parts of TypeScript code that needs to be modified as well, and we'll just do the complete safe refactoring based on static types and static analysis, which is really cool. So you probably noticed that we started cutting all these releases, all these minor releases, and there is a logic behind it. We as soon as we got to the state where we cut the 2.0 in mid-September, we decided on establishing this process for our team and for the releases, and we set out, we agreed on a release schedule for Angular. And the release schedule is modeled after Semver. So, and Semver basically says there are patch versions, there are minor versions, there are major versions. And what we are doing is we're shipping patch version every week, unless there's something going on, like holidays or something like that. Minor version every month, and major version every 6 months. We announced this on our blog post. Many people have seen the blog post. Some haven't, so that's why I'm mentioning right now, so that it's not a big surprise. This is something we already talked about. There's some people haven't heard about it yet. And this is what our schedule looked like. And it was actually quite amazing that this was like the proposed schedule back in September, and it kind of worked out, like a few days on and off with the release dates, but we did a pretty good job with adhering to the plan, and when we released the releases as scheduled. So one thing that is kind of surprising to me is that people often talk about semantic versioning, but there is still a large group of developers that don't understand what semantic versioning is all about. So just a brief reminder, semantic versioning is, let's decide on what the digits in the version number mean. Patch number is the last digit, and it means no features, no breaking changes. So this should be low risk upgrade. You should be able to jump on it right away. Minor release is the second digit in the version number, and it says there are new features, but no breaking changes. Now, when I say no breaking changes, that's intentional breaking changes, because sometimes things happen, but if they do, we should consider that as a regression, and in our team, that usually means rollback. So if there's a breaking change that is detected after release, we go and remove the feature or change the feature so that the breaking change is removed. And then major says there are new features and potential breaking changes. How big potential breaking changes Semver doesn't define. It can be as little as, hey, in this weird case when you have a line break in your template, and you have 2 images in your template, and it's Monday, there's going to be different behavior than what you had before. Or maybe before it was unspecified, and now it is. So it can be a big scale, and Semver doesn't define what are these breaking changes. So we need to find a definition as a community what breaking changes mean. But before we get there, first, let's talk about how we develop Angular, because I think that will explain a lot about the processes that we have, the versioning that we have, and the guarantees we give you as a team to the community. You probably know that we built Angular in a monorepo, which means that we have one giant repository on GitHub. And all of the packages, like the core, common, compiler, they're all in the source code is in this one repository. And we make changes to the single repository, and out of that, we then publish many small packages. So, as I mentioned, we have lots of these small packages. They come from a single repository. We send pull request to the single repository and merge it, and then at some point, based on the schedule, we say, oh, okay, it's Wednesday, it's time to cut a release. There are no regressions that we know, no blockers, CI is green, let's cut a release. And we assign version numbers. And because we cut versions from this monorepo, we just have single version number for all of the packages, except for the router, because we kind of screwed up with the router, and we ran out of the version numbers, so we had to bump it, and now it's like one off. But it's okay, you know. Sometimes things happen, and you just have to deal with it. One thing that people often don't know is how Google uses Angular. And what we do is we build Angular on GitHub because we believe in open source and we believe that the right way to build open source product is to build it in open rather than build it at Google and then just export the source code and hand it over to the community. So we build it on GitHub in this monorepo. And then what we do is every time we merge a pull request or every time we make a commit to the master branch on GitHub, we take that change and bring it to Google. And at Google, we also have one giant monorepo for all of the projects. So like you have Google Maps and self-driving cars and Angular all in a single repository. I know, it's crazy. It works actually surprisingly well, you'll be surprised. So what this means is that when we bring Angular to Google, all of the applications that depend on Angular at Google, and there's a lot of them, will get that update automatically because there's only one version of Angular at Google. There is no like version 2.1 or version 2.3.4 or whatever. There is just the master head that is on GitHub. We bring it in, and everybody starts using it. So as soon as we commit to that big monorepo at Google, our internal build systems will see the change and will start this crazy CI parade where the CI detects all of the dependencies and will figure out, oh, look, there's Angular and there's this project that DoubleClick or whatever it is that depends on Angular. Let me rebuild it, make sure that it's still built, and run all of their tests. And this happens automatically. So every time we make a change to Angular, the whole Google just runs their tests and verify that Angular is still okay. And this is really good for us because we know that we haven't broken anything. We know that all of the applications are still working, and we feel very confident about cutting a release at that point because we know that there's lots and lots of applications with lots of integration tests that verified that Angular is good. And for the application teams, this just means that they don't worry about upgrades. They just build their application and they're receiving new Angular. So that's how Google works, and this is like why having these aligned versions actually makes sense, and we feel better about it because, oh yeah, sometimes things are very interesting. Like when you have this one version number, one version of Angular, and you need to make a breaking change, like we did in between RC2 and RC3. It can be very interesting because then you need to update all of those projects. So it's our responsibility to do that, and that can be quite a lot of work. So we have to think about how we do those changes and not take it easy. But there are lots of benefits. So we feel very confident about this monorepo design and how we bring and use it at Google. One of the big benefits is that we know that the version we are releasing was battle tested at Google. There's lots of tests, and we feel really good about it. And the other one is that rather than having lots of small repositories, if we have this one big monorepo, we are much more productive because it's much easier for us to get stuff done. We don't need to deal with version numbers and stuff like that. And that means we can build features, we can make Angular faster, and that's good for the community and for everybody who uses Angular. So let's talk about some upcoming features, because we talked about Angular 2 and what happened between 2.0 and now. One of the features that is coming is TypeScript 2.1. So we really want to take advantage of the latest version. Maybe it's going to be 2.2. We'll see how we align with the releases of the TypeScript team. But there is lots of benefits to have from the upgrade. The compiler is much smarter. The error messages are way, way better. There is this new feature called strict null checks, which is really awesome if you're into type systems and want to have extra type safety. It's not something that's required, but you can opt into it. And Google applications use it by default, so that's something that is on by default for all of the applications. And because of some of the features in TypeScript, NGC will get faster because we will be able to take advantage of some optimizations that happen. So that's great, and we can't wait for it. The thing is that we currently use TypeScript 1.8. That's the baseline. Our DTS files that are on NPM, if you consume Angular, they're built with 1.8 and they're compatible with 1.8. So you can take TypeScript 1.8 and compile it you can compile Angular with it or your application with it, and everything's going to everything's going to be working just fine. But TypeScript 2.1, they added some features, the type system is richer, and the DTS files are no longer compatible with TypeScript 1.8. So this basically means it's a breaking change. Like, we are not making the breaking change, but it's a breaking change that will affect some people migrating. It's not going to be a big deal. We did these migrations across the whole Google, and it was quite trivial, but it does require some developer intervention. So it is technically a breaking change. Well, according to Semver, that means we need to bump the major version number, right? So does that mean Angular 3? Well, we'll see. But let's talk about other things that we're still doing in this release that we're working on. We want to make sure that it's as backwards compatible with Angular 2 as possible, because it took us 2 years to get to the point where we are now, and we don't want to throw it away. Like, we see all these components being built. It's very important for us that the community and the ecosystem feels that everything's stable and they can keep on building on top of it. We will be, however, making changes to the compiler. We're going to be making the compiler smarter, because we realize that there are cases where people develop code with bugs in it, and the compiler doesn't see it currently. But we will make the compiler smarter, and we will surface these bugs. So similar, like with TypeScript upgrade, these are bugs that already exist in your application. We will just point them to you, and you will fix them. Not a big deal. It's going to be quite trivial, and we'll make sure that the error messages are easy to understand and you have good instructions. But again, this will make your applications better because the bugs already exist in your applications. You just don't know about them. So, yeah, software development, you know, it's fun. Being faster, being smaller. You know, the compiler has changed so much, even in the like 2.1, 2.2, 2.3 releases. If you compare the output of the compiler, it changed in a drastic way, and it's going to keep on changing because there is still a lot of room for improvement. So we know that the AOT size, the generated code can be significantly smaller. We'll be working on that. There's still room for optimizations when it comes to runtime speed and parse time and many other things. So all this stuff and many other things we'll still be working on. But the important point that I want to really stress, like, nobody should be afraid of this version, because we don't want to make any breaking changes that will break the ecosystem. And for us, that really means that we don't want to break existing components that are out there. So anybody who's using stable APIs, anybody who's doing common things, we'll make our best to make sure that we're not going to break anybody with this release. So I mentioned Angular 3, but I also mentioned this router thing. And it's really confusing when you have Angular 3 that is using router version 4. So we thought, well, let's fix it. And what we are doing is we will actually do Angular 4. This is the schedule for Angular 4. One thing I want to make sure, please, when you tweet, be considerate. You know, I'm giving you lots of information. When you go on Twitter, you will just, you know, take screenshots and stuff, and you will freak people out. Please don't freak people out. Please, please. So we'll be, for the next 3 months, we'll be working on Angular 4. You will see the first build on NPM next week. This is why I'm here to talk about this. Very timely. And our plan is to do approximately 8 betas between now and the next 2 months, and they'll leave the last month for RC. And in the RC, there's going to be no scope change of the release, so no new features except for like small adjustments. And we'll be really listening to your feedback to see, like, do we make a breaking change that is affecting you? If we did, then we need to revert it, or we need to do something about it. Is something not working, or is some API not as ergonomic as you would like it to be? We'll still have 1 month to change it. And this time we'll also give time to partners, IDE, Bootstrap, material design, to get ready for this release. So that by the time Angular 4 is out, in March. The ecosystem is going to be ready for it, and it's going to be super easy for everybody to jump on it. So to summarize, we are going to Angular 4. It's due in March 2017. I'm being super honest with you guys. Don't freak out. It's going to be good. And it's going to be backwards compatible with Angular 2 to the best possible extent. Of course, it's super difficult to predict what breaking changes could we hit, but our intention is to make sure that the ecosystem is not going to break because of some changes we make. So if we had to decide between 10% for us faster Angular and broken ecosystem, we're going to go for preserving the stability in the ecosystem. I'm being quite honest with you, and one thing I want to make sure is that these things don't come as a surprise to anybody. We want the community to see the evolution of Angular as something that is predictable, something that is transparent, stable, and incremental. And the plan that we have right now is keep on cutting major releases every 6 months with minimal breaking changes. And the reason why we need these breaking changes is just like with the case of TypeScript. We can't be stuck on version 1.8, which is going to be obsolete soon. We need to keep evolving with the rest of the ecosystem, with the web. If we find that some APIs that we have in Angular are not ergonomic, we need to figure out a way how to make them ergonomic, but do it in a way that is not going to break the ecosystem. So this is the current schedule after after Angular 4, and if you talk to your boss, if you talk to other developers, one key takeaway should be that this kind of change is going to be happening, and we want you to stay close to the head of Angular, just like Google does. Google is the big guinea pig for the Angular community. Google actually runs on the beta versions where there still can be breaking changes, but we don't expose that to the community. Like, you can opt in, you can use it from NPM, but it's not what you get by default. But we want the community to get into this rhythm where the community will know, oh, so the next major version is in September or whatever it is. Let me plan my schedule around it, or let me try to find out, when is the RC so that I can test it and I can provide the feedback about what works, what doesn't, any unexpected breaking changes, so that we can still fix it before the final release date comes. There's one more thing I want to talk to you about, which is, let's just call it Angular. Let's don't call it AngularJS, let's don't call it Angular 2, because as we are releasing more and more of these versions, it's going to be super confusing for everybody. And if we keep on insisting that it's Angular 2, it's Angular 3, it's Angular 4, whatever it is, people that don't know how this process works and how the community operates will see the whole ecosystem as something fragile, or might just misinterpret what's going on. And in many cases, because of the stability guarantees that we have, there is no big difference between Angular 4 and Angular 2. So if you're looking at some answer on Stack Overflow for Angular 2, it will most likely work for Angular 4. And when it doesn't, that's when you should go and clarify. We also have official logos that you can use and customize. I see lots of logos in the community. That's awesome. That's what we want. But please use these as the baseline, because these are the latest logos that we have. They were designed by our designers, and you can take them and customize them in whatever way you want. There are no copyrights or anything like that. We really want community to do awesome things with the logo. So with that, I just want to thank you. Please stay calm. And let's just evolve Angular in this predictable and stable way, because we do need to evolve. We can't be stuck on some old version. I really want to thank a bunch of people, because yesterday I tweeted that I'm conducting this major open source experiment, I think I called it. And what I did is we gathered in a room and we prepared this presentation together, because I have nothing to hide. I believe that our intentions are good, but just wording the message is pretty tricky, especially if you don't know how people will react to different words. So I'm very grateful that we have awesome people in our community that were able to spend a couple hours with me discussing this and preparing the story of this presentation so that hopefully it's easier to understand, it's less scary, and you see that this is a good thing for Angular, for you, for your community, for your project, for your company. With that, we have a few minutes for Q&A. So I'm happy to take any questions. Don't be afraid to ask anything, even if it sounds controversial. I'm happy to answer whatever is your concern or on your mind.
Any effort to put on some documentation for libraries? Because now it's pretty difficult to create own library for Angular 2, and documentation is missing, and it's kind of painful process. Trying and
Are you talking about the packaging format?
yeah.
Okay, so the question is there going to be documentation for how to create Angular libraries in a way that works with the rest of the ecosystem? Yes, this is on my plate, or probably on my plate, because I was heavily involved in the design of the packaging format that we have. We did a lot of research when it comes to the layout of the NPM module that we use for Angular, and we did it so that it's compatible with ES5 and ES6 and TypeScript and UMD bundles and like all of these crazy corner cases. And it's all tree shakeable and optimizable so that when the build tools come, they just work out of the box and can get the smallest possible size of your application. So yes, we need to document it. I'll probably work on it next week. I'll put it on Twitter once it's done. Yeah. More questions? I'm not sure if I answered all the questions or if I freaked you out and you're like
Yes, hello.
state of disbelief.
I was just wondering, is Angular, Angular with JavaScript, just plain JavaScript, is that still a valid option because
It is.
documentation is missing?
Yes. Yes. Angular with just ES5 or ES6 is a valid option. It's not something we feel you will have the best time with because TypeScript is so much better and can give you the tooling and all of that stuff can give you so much more benefits. So this is why our documentation is primarily in TypeScript. But we fully support ES5, we fully support ES6. There are projects at Google that just use ES6. I don't think there's a project that uses ES5 at Google. So we are committed to that. But when it comes to documentation, there is so much stuff to document, like just the packaging, like there's endless number of things to still document. So we decided that we'll just focus on one good documentation that is the highest fidelity one, which is the TypeScript one. And then we created pages that allow you to understand how to take that syntax and translate it to ES6 or ES5. So if you go to Angular.io, I believe at the lower bottom corner, is a link with document that shows you, oh, this is what a class in TypeScript looks like, and the same class looks like this in ES6, and this is what it looks like in ES5. So yes, it's fully supported, but just because of resource constraints, we decided to document the TypeScript version the best and give you hints on how to read that and apply it to ES6 and ES5.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, is the Angular Dart version going to use the same schedule as the...
Yeah.
Because
so
it's now developed in a separate team, I guess.
Correct. So up until summer, our team was building from a single code base both the Angular TypeScript and the Angular Dart version. We did everything I said. We built it on GitHub, we brought it to Google, and from there it would be transpiled from TypeScript to Dart, and then all the Dart applications would use that. This was causing some ergonomics issues for the teams that were using the Dart version, and was limiting our options when it came to APIs in the TypeScript version. So what we decided to do in the summer was to fork the project, because it was far enough where like all of this investment we did into the core infrastructure, into the compiler and syntax, all that stuff was already good enough. And we decided to take the last mile and customize it for the Dart and the TypeScript language, so that developers have the best possible experience. And that, of course, once you fork, that becomes like twice as much work. So the Dart team took over the Angular Dart version, and they maintained that. our team maintains the TypeScript and the JavaScript version. We still talk, we discuss, the improvements, and we learn from each other. But the goal is not to keep the APIs locked and be exactly the same. I don't know what the release schedule for Angular 2 Dart is right now because I've been traveling for a while and I just don't know. So this is something you would have to ask them. I'm speaking for the TypeScript JavaScript version of Angular.
Hello. Is System.js still being used at Google projects, or is it all about Webpack now?
Neither. No. So Google doesn't use Webpack or System.js. We have our own custom loader. Like everything at Google is super custom. So we have our own module loader. We don't use Webpack or System.js or Rollup, any of these tools. They just don't work in the Google development infrastructure. They're not compatible, or they don't have enough. They don't perform well enough to scale. Because as I mentioned, the whole internal infrastructure is quite crazy because we make a change to Angular and it propagates through the whole Google automatically. And for this, you need tools that scale and are sufficiently stable. So we have our own.
So is there an advice out there for us?
Is there what?
Is there an advice out there for us?
What you should use?
Yes.
So originally our plan was to wait and see. And that's why we hedge our bets and went with System.js, with Webpack. But the way I see this ecosystem evolving today, and this will probably change in 6 months, it seems that Webpack is a better option from the developer ergonomics. And it's not, by no means, Webpack is not perfect. There are lots of issues that I would like fixed, but from the developer ergonomics is probably the best solution. System.js is an option for online demos where you don't have a node build system available, so like for plunkers, fiddles, and all of these demos. System.js is a perfect option. Again, I expect that this will change. And if you're doing something super custom and you really want the best performance and you don't mind the ergonomic issues, you should take a look at Rollup or System.js because they do give you a better payload size, better bundles. It's just setting up the whole system so that it works reliably is much more difficult. So depending, you have to decide based on your project and based on the team what kind of trade-offs you want to make. If you just want to build stuff and you don't care that it's maybe 10%, 20% bigger, then just go with Webpack. If you care about every single byte, then you should look at Rollup and Closure Compiler and these more advanced options that are not as ergonomic as Webpack.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, did you end up rewriting some Angular 1 into Angular 2, like full rewrites internally at Google, or did you use strategies such as ng upgrade for AdWords or DoubleClick, for example?
Green Tea, which is a big CRM system, we rewrote it, Big Bang. So they went from Angular Dart 1 to Angular Dart 2, and they just rewrote everything from scratch. Other teams are doing the ng upgrade. So there is a cloudgoogle.com, which is all the front end for managing Google Cloud for our customers and enterprise customers. All of that is written with Angular 1, and they just started the migration to Angular 2. They're using the AOT ng upgrade. Firebase, they also have Firebase console. They're also doing ng upgrade with AOT right now. So it depends on the team, how they decide what their priorities are, how many developers they have. And I expect the similar to be happening in the community. And that's what I hear from other people. So if it's a small project, they usually just rewrite. Or if it's a big project with lots of developers, they, depending on the size and what's in the pipeline, they either rewrite or go with ng upgrade. Okay, Thank you very much. I think we're out of time. Okay. Ta-da!
I'll give you a